So I've been using a MacBook Pro now for about 3 months, and part of that time has spent learning or unlearning how I used to do things in Windows, and of course, learning how things are done in macOS. I think I have a pretty good idea of some of the system settings that I would typically go through if I was setting this MacBook up again, brand new, which I don't want to do too much because, of course, part of the reason I switched to Mac OS is so that I didn't have to fiddle with a Windows system for very much. But fortunately for me, the Mac OS system settings are very easy to set up. Wi-Fi is pretty self-explanatory. You simply select the Wi-Fi network that you're using. Bluetooth, I have a couple of Bluetooth devices. I have a Bluetooth mouse. I've got a Magic Keyboard, a Magic Trackpad, and of course I've got my AirPods as well. So they're easy enough to set up. I won't go into explaining that. Under general, it's more information here than anything else. You know, from time to time you might want to check to see if Mac OS 27 has come out. Not yet, but hopefully soon. Accessibility, if you're someone who needs voiceover or read and speak or a hearing device, this would be an area you'd want to go to. First place that I generally go is appearance. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the whole light mode, dark mode. I generally like lighter window colors, so that's usually one of the first things I select. I like liquid glass, but we'll see. It could get a little bit crazy with the new Mac OS 27 that's coming out in the not too distant future. I'm not a big one for changing overall icon and widget styles. The default works fine for me. In more of anticipation of how Apple Intelligence and Siri AI are going to affect Mac OS, I've turned these on. I'll probably not have Siri listen for me, but rather use the double command key action to get that started here. And that's pretty much all I need to go into here. Now, in desktop and dock, my dock is going to go on the bottom of my screen. I will use the Genie effect, which is lots of eye candy, of course. Until I get sick of it, and then I'll probably turn it off. So far, I have really kind of left magnification on. This really kind of just reminds me of the old school Macs, and I think I prefer a little less eye candy where I simply select the icon that I'm looking for there. I'm not going to automatically hide and show the dock. I like to keep it on my main display. I'm working on 2 monitors. So on the second monitor, it doesn't need to be there, but certainly on my main display, it can be persistent at all times. Everything else, desktop and stage manager, I'm going to show items on the desktop, but I'm less interested in widgets than things like drives and so forth. So when you click wallpaper, it will show you the widgets. And there's a way you can turn that off, and I'll just get to that in a moment there. We can set the show desktop items only in Stage Manager. In fact, I think you can probably uncheck that, and then clicking the desktop really has no effect. As we scroll down a little bit further, I will be changing my default web browser to Chrome at some point once I get it in. Actually, it is installed. So I'll go ahead and do that at this point here. Obviously, asked to keep changes when closing documents, close windows when quitting an application, all makes sense to me. I like dragging windows to the left or the right of the screen to tile them. I like that effect. I do enjoy dragging windows to the menu bar to fill the screen. I do like holding down the Option key while dragging windows to tile. That's useful. I haven't paid attention to the tiled windows margins. I'm going to leave it on for right now, but it may be something I turn off at some point here. Now, mission control. The idea with mission control has to do with spaces. And to be perfectly honest, I am not a fan of spaces. So I'm going to turn off everything that relates to spaces. I don't want to see spaces. I like deciding where my applications are going to go on which monitor and so forth. So I'm going to go with these settings that you see here. When it comes to display, presently right now I'm using my 34-inch widescreen monitor as my main display, but typically the built-in display for my MacBook Pro is where I'm going to generally have the main display. And the menu bar, I don't know, I can't decide. I kind of like the menu bar background if it's not too intense, but it's kind of cool to have the wallpaper show through as well. And obviously menu bar controls. That will probably change over time as I make new selections and so forth. Spotlight's pretty straightforward. Obviously, when you run Spotlight, you just press Command Space and you can search for things. If you'd like to avoid results from particular apps, you can unselect these here. Like, for example, if you didn't want to see results from photos, I could unselect that option here. Wallpaper, I do like to change it up a little bit. I do like this new Tau wallpaper combination with the screensaver that you see there. But of course, from time to time I get bored with wallpaper as easily as anybody else, and I might go try solar gradients for a while or chroma red or something along those lines. Notifications, this is going to be related to all your notifications, and you can decide when you'll see notifications, where you'll see them, and so forth. Sound is here. Focus is when obviously you can have do not disturb if you're working on a video or creating some content. The screen time, of course, will allow you to set parental controls for children's devices. Doesn't really apply to me. Lock screen, privacy, security, touch ID, and password. I've set up 3 fingerprint touch IDs. One for my left index finger, one for my right index finger, and one for my right thumb, because it depends on where I'm using my Mac. I might use any one of those 3 fingers. And I've also set it up to recognize my Apple Watch and unlock your applications and your Mac, of course, according to proximity to your Apple Watch. I haven't set it up right now, but I typically have one of my credit cards set up as a payment card for my Apple Wallet. Under keyboard, of course, you can customize your keyboard. Same thing with the mouse. I've turned off natural scrolling for the mouse because what I perceive to be natural scrolling is not what Apple perceives to be natural scrolling. And I've done the exact same thing for my trackpad as well. And of course, I'm working with the built-in trackpad as well as the Magic Trackpad. Printers and scanners are nice. It is so easy and quick to add a printer or a scanner to a macOS device. Very complicated in Windows, and I don't know why. Certainly by 2026 it would be something that Windows could easily implement, but still very difficult, and I really enjoy the fact that it literally takes seconds to set up my Lexmark black and white laser. So this is pretty much set up with all the settings that I'm going to use. A couple of other things that I do look at is in the Finder, I want to make sure that my sidebar is available, so I'm going to make sure that that is selected. And one of the other things under view options that not view options. And also under settings, I do like seeing my hard drive on settings here. So that's something that I do as well. And there's another place where you need to go in order to see that. Let's go back into System Settings and then back down to Appearance. And we want to show items on desktop as well. And that will have my Macintosh HD available as well. Okay, that's pretty much everything that I like to set up in macOS. So hopefully you agree with some of those choices, but if not, it should point you in the right direction as to, where you're going to go to find this stuff. Lovely.